What are you saying, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name's Isa and I'm a medic studying in London. So I got a lot of messages and comments, especially on TikTok, from my recent video on losing 10 kg in 30 days. And so I started off as being 85 kilos, which was the heaviest I've ever been. And then 30 days later was around 75 kilos. And so the three main components I want to talk to you about today are the cardio that I did, the lifting, and also the diet, which is of course a very important factor as well. So before we get into it, just a couple of things. First of all, the reason why I did it in the first place. Well, I actually had a fractured clavicle from my wrestling background, and also a sports hernia, which isn't really a hernia, but that's a whole different discussion. And so just a couple of injuries which led me to gain a lot of weight, and so I was the heaviest that I'd ever been at 85 kilos. And so I was really determined to lose this weight before the new year, now that I had recovered from my injuries. And I did have experience before with cutting and bulking, tracking calories, things like that. And I did research about how much is safe to lose, and so I was aware of all of that before I did it, and so I was ready to go on a hard but short cut in order to reduce my body weight back down again and get back on track in terms of gym progress. Also to note, although at the moment I'm going through a cutting or recomposition phase, these results weren't recent, they happened a couple of years ago, and so just something to let you know in case you do get confused with my progress on Instagram. So another thing to mention is 10 kg in 1 month is a lot to lose, so you have to bear in mind a couple of things. First of all, that when you are a heavier weight, it's easier initially to lose weight, so you do see those big jumps in the beginning. And the second thing to consider is that it wasn't all muscle, so a lot of it is going to be water loss, water weight, and also some muscle loss, because as I'll talk about, I wasn't too concerned with maintaining my muscle at the time, so I was prepared to lose a bit of muscle if it meant that I could lose this amount of weight in this amount of time. And also I did get a lot of comments on TikTok especially saying this is crash dieting, it's really bad for your health. Well, there's a few things I wanted to clear up. So first of all, the deficit of calories wasn't really that much, so it was around 500 to 750, as we'll come to, which really isn't that severe, especially if you're not starving yourself. I had all my macronutrients, I wasn't removing carbs or anything like that from my diet, and I was also containing all my micronutrients as well into the diet, and also taking supplements. So none of that was really lost. Also the fact that it was a short time period, and so I wasn't prolonging it. I knew that it was unsustainable, but it was just a shortcut to get me back on track. And if you want to do this sort of diet where it's a really short phase of weight loss, then I recommend you read the NHS website. I'll leave the link in the description. There's a page, an article that they have, which goes through some things, some do's and do nots, and also some medical conditions for which, if you have, you should avoid doing these type of weight loss programs. But it's important to remember that you don't starve yourself, and you don't reduce your calories by extreme amounts and cut out loads of foods on extremely low calorie diets, as this is really bad for your health, especially if you do it for a long period. Having said that, guys, let's get into the video. Okay, so for cardio, the only thing that I really did was this 5-minute routine that I did every single day. It consisted of 9 exercises, followed by a 30-second break, and there were 3 sets of it. That was in my original video, you can check it out, but just to quickly run through it, it would start off with 10 sprawls, then 10 star jumps, 10 running high knees, 10 mountain climbers, 10 squat thrusts, 10 burpees, 10 jumping squats, 10 jumping high knees, 10 alternating lunges, and then you take the break, and then you repeat it 2 more times for a total of 3 sets. And I wasn't really tracking the amount of calories burned through like any watch or fitness apps or anything. It was just more trying to go all in, you know, in quite an intense cardio session. And so this routine would be considered anaerobic exercise, HIIT training, high intensity, you know. So it's quite short, but it also does burn a lot of calories, and it is quite challenging. When I first started it out, it took me around 7 minutes to complete, but by the end it was definitely below 5 minutes, maybe below 4 minutes if I remember correctly, but you get used to it quite quickly. But if you are overweight or obese and you're not really used to doing this kind of high intensity training, I wouldn't recommend doing this because it is quite strenuous on your joints. and if you're not used to it, there's a high risk of injury. For myself, I was doing a bit of lightweight training prior to this, and so I was doing a lot of eccentric training and pump training, and so that really helps the tendons strengthen, so that I was ready for this kind of routine. So if that's the case, I'd recommend doing some low intensity cardio instead, maybe walking, running if you can, swimming, cycling, things like that, and then maybe work your way towards this high intensity interval training. And also something that is quite important to mention, this was the only real cardio that I was doing intentionally, but on top of this I was also walking quite a bit, walking to and from school, which took about half an hour each way, so that's definitely something to consider as well. This 5-minute routine is what I did every single day. You didn't need any equipment, so I just did it every single day in my room. And this kind of took care of the burning calories side of things, so the total daily energy expenditure. It kind of boosted that up a bit, and so it helped me to stay in a calorie deficit. Also, just to mention, doing this kind of high intensity cardio, it kind of suppresses your appetite a bit, so afterwards naturally you don't really feel like eating straight away. This can help you if you're trying to diet as well, because essentially you can avoid unhealthy snacking if that's something you do. Like me, I eat a lot of junk when I'm snacking, so that's one of the ways that I can help as well. So in terms of lifting, you know, my regular lifting workouts and stuff, I was still doing some workouts like that, but it was mainly bodyweight stuff and really lightweight exercises. So I had like 3 kg dumbbells, just doing loads and loads of reps. And there's a couple of reasons for this. First of all, I was coming back from injury, and so I didn't really want to start going really heavy right away. Also, I do find it's more taxing to try and lift really heavy whilst you're in a caloric deficit, especially on a hard cut like this was. And you have to also bear in mind that I didn't mind losing any muscle mass at that time. I just wanted to do it as something that would be fun, you know, something, you know, those workouts when you're really chasing the pump and getting that metabolic stress in the muscles. So that's really why I chose to do lightweight bodyweight exercises. It was more engaging, something a bit different, and it was also less taxing on my body. And if you're interested in seeing the types of home workouts I was doing at the time, you can check out my Instagram. I'll be posting some of those workouts on there. But having said that, let's move on to the third component, and that is diet. So diet is of course very important. You hear a lot of people saying that a six-pack is made in the kitchen, and there's some truth to that, because no matter how many calories you burn through exercising, through your daily activities, if you eat more calories than that, then you're not gonna lose weight. It's as simple as that. It's all about this energy balance. So all the meals that I was eating, I was tracking the calories, the protein, all of that through this app called MyFitnessPal, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It's easy, just use the barcode, scan the barcode, and it's automatically there. You put in how much you've eaten, and it's as simple as that. So in terms of numbers, for the first 2 weeks I was eating in about a 500 calorie deficit, and then for the last 2 weeks was about 750 calorie deficit. So that was about 1700 calories in total. So it's not really extreme at all, seeing as though the NHS, for example, recommends a 600 calorie deficit. Wouldn't really be classed as crash dieting. So alongside calories, the other main thing that I was trying to track was protein intake, and for that I was going for 1 gram of lean body weight per day, and so that was around 150 grams of protein every day. And those were the two main things that I was concerned about, the calories and the protein. And so as you can imagine, I was going for quite lean choices of protein, so your chicken, turkey, fish, as opposed to more fatty ones like lamb and some other protein sources. So if we divide the total amount of calories, which is 1700, divided by the protein, 150, we get around 11, something like that. So I know that all the foods that I need to be eating need to average out a ratio of 11. So for every 1 gram of protein, 11 calories. So it should average out around that. And obviously things like protein shakes would be very low ratio, around 7. and so you can kind of mix and match different foods throughout the day, and that's kind of how I planned out what I was going to eat for that day. The other technique that I used is intermittent fasting. Now I did this twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays, and I kept my daily calorie intake the same, so I would still eat 1,700 calories on that day. But just for me personally, in the mornings I don't really have a great appetite, and through those days I was able to really go throughout the day without much hunger at all. I kind of got used to it, and so it was just a bit more motivating for me to have these large meals at the end of the day, as opposed to the usual days where everything's, all the meals are kind of smaller portions. And so it's just something that helped me stay motivated. There's nothing magic and breakthrough about intermittent fasting. In the end, this is all about calorie intake versus calorie expenditure, but it's just something that I used, and if it works for you, then go for it. Otherwise, it's not something that you have to utilize. There are plenty of different other strategies, and it's what works best for you in the end. And so those were the three main components I wanted to talk to you about today. Also, just to mention, sleep is also quite an important factor. So make sure that you are getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep. You should know how much sleep that you need to feel best. But also that is just a thing on the side, which I'm assuming that you're getting enough sleep, but it's also a very important factor. You may have noticed that everything I spoke about today comes down to calories in versus calories out, and it's all about energy balance. I will have a video on this coming soon to try and break it down as simple as I can, and stay tuned for that. Having said that, if you have any more questions or comments, leave it down below. Hit the like button, I really do appreciate it, and hit the subscribe button if you want more science-based fitness videos. Having said that, guys, work hard but work smart, and I'll see you in the next video.